Hello and welcome to part 2 of my Tanuki creation. It turned out better than I thought it would. I'm looking at the finished product now. It's the next day. I just wanted to record an intro to part 2. The end of part 2 ended with the words, "I don't like this at all." And I really did not like that at all. So I took it all apart. I tried to think of a way to put it in the pot with both of those groupings of trees, and I quickly determined that the second grouping of trees was just too much for this planting. The first grouping of trees fit so nicely on the Tanuki, and there were enough branches that I could spread them out and make them look good, but how could I get that piece of wood to stay where I want it? Vertically too, so I couldn't secure it to the bottom of the pot. I would have had to raise it up. So that's what I did. I raised it up onto a rock, and I'm hoping there will be some connections between the tree and the rock someday, because today I've got it lashed. I've got the Tanuki wood lashed to the rock with vet tape. That's not going to last, but it's all holding steady, and it looks really good in the pot. So let me go back to yesterday. When I left you, I turned the camera off. I lifted the whole thing up. I took it apart. I put a rock underneath it. I lashed it around. And then I said, oh yeah, let me turn the camera on. I put it in the pot, and then I said, oh yeah, let me turn the camera on. So you'll see some of my pruning, some of my additional wiring. And I've even done some since then, which I'll show you at the end of this video. So let's get right to it. All right, so I've decided not to use that secondary tree. I'll make it a specimen on its own. It's a nice tree. I've lashed this to a rock. The way the roots are, I don't have any hope that it will mesh to the rock very well. But maybe it'll hold itself together well enough for when I do a repot a few years down the road. I've given it a shot. It's lashed to a rock. That's what's given it its stability. It's not wired into the pot, but it won't move over. And I will just keep it alive. Maybe it'll look like something someday. That's the hope anyway. Get some soil in there. So this is my Tanuki. I took the Tanuki challenge. Thank you again, Andy, from the YouTube channel Bonsai Crazy, for putting that challenge out there. I am breathing a sigh of relief that I've completed it. All right, so this has been the first nice day in a long time. I can't say I regret being out in the greenhouse. I know Luca joins me in thanking you for keeping us company in my backyard, in our backyard. Right, Luca? Maybe this will sprout some roots here. Maybe I'll wrap some sphagnum. I know it created roots before. I can do it again. I think before I conclude this video, I'll do some shaping. I'm going to do some wiring. As you can see, I did here. That's what got me thinking. I'm going to go in and do some selective pruning. All right, so I like the way this reaches out, but there's a couple of branches that reach back to this one and kind of crowd it out. So I'm going to get rid of those. And let this go off on its own. There's another section here. And I think interferes. And having that space there makes it look a little more miniature. This is just going to grow straight up, which is fine. Just going to take the tip off of this. I'm going to clean out some of this in the middle here. This piece that goes straight back, take that off. A couple of fronds in the way of one another here. I'll take one of them away. Hope it's not the wrong one. Cleans that up a little bit. I'm going to take the growth out of the middle of this. I'm not using the right scissors for this, but it's the one I had in my hand. They should work. Just taking the crotch growth out, creating a little more separation. There's a branch that's not really formed. See if we can get a little tighter in here. I've got two apexes competing with one another here. I'm going to cut the top off of this one and let this one grow on. These thuja have a nice way of creating whorls, and I don't mean that by branches off the trunk. I mean whorls in the foliage itself, which is nice. You can only see it when you look down at them, but it's very nice. All right, I kind of like that this is a little cluttered here. A little too much though. And there's no real particular front on this tree just yet. It's still in training, will be for a while. I do have to think about what I want to do with the other tree that I was considering. Right now it's sitting in that pail of smelly water. I want to get rid of this whole branch. Yeah, sure. I don't know. I'm going to cut it to where it kind of bushes out. This does interfere, but the interference might be coming from the other branch. It is. So, how do I isolate that? All right. This branch. Well, this one's too long. Start with that. This goes off in two directions. I like the one that goes in the lower direction. Kind of a weak branch. I hope it's okay. There's a dead branch. There's another dead branch. All right, so I've got to, I think I'm going to take this branch off altogether. I've got to deal with this tree now. So this is going to require some wire. It's a bit tense there, so I got to use some pretty thick wire and push this back around. Maybe I can utilize that bend. I really don't think so. But I'd like this to be, you know, if this were the front, this bending up in this direction would be kind of nice. But it looks a little funny the way it comes off of the branch here. Maybe I can tuck it in over here. Well, first things first, I've got to try and pull this piece over as much as possible. How do I do that? Let me think about that and I'll come back to you. All right, so I've decided to go a little further with this tree today and hope this video isn't too long. But I'm starting to get some dimension to the tree and I can get even more this way. I've lashed this piece down so that it adheres to the wood and now bends forward this way. So all I really want to do now is bring these sides up and prune them. So I'm going to work on that. I'll start with this guy back here. All right, let me get some wire on these. Unfortunately, I have to wire. There's really nothing I can do to keep me from having to wire. I'll come back once they're wired and we can work on placement. All right, I got this middle piece wired now. How do I want that to go? Well, this one's going to come up like this and be kind of forward, I guess, if this is the front. So I'll be thinning these out. I'll do a little of that right now. All right, I don't think I need this branch here at all. That opens it up. Got some interference down here. And I want this to look miniature, so the more of the branch I see, the better. All right. This interferes. That's got some good separation to there. Got another branch here that's kind of hiding. See if I can break it out. It's going to be tough. It wants to go that way. I take this part off of it. This part is growing that way. And this part. I'm a bit slower than even I would like. And hopefully I'll get faster as time goes by. But I really like to take my time with these details. You can very easily cut the wrong thing and have quite a disaster on your hands. So I like to take it slow. All right, I've given myself a little bit of separation here. Not quite enough, but a little bit. There we go. The new puppy next door, Caesar. Great Dane puppy. Gonna be enormous. Zeus was the Great Dane they had before, and Zeus had to be put down, and the owner was devastated. So yesterday while I was walking my dog, I noticed they had a new addition to the family, Caesar. Should be fun through the chain link fence. All right, I got to work on wiring the end of this branch here so it can go up. May end up losing this guy altogether. I'm going to do that. And this one. And I'll make that next decision as I go up. It's got a bend right there. So I'll anchor it to this piece here. All right, so I got some wire on this last piece. Things have been moving around. I'm not really sure how this is going to end up. But no matter what, this is what needed to happen. Okay, that's got some nice things going on just in that position. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wire these two branches down. All right, let me trim a few branches and see if I can't just leave it alone like that. Just clearing out some of the clutter closer down and remove some of the interference from the branches above and from the branches below. I'm going to cut the tips off of some of these, being careful to leave green foliage. Cut between the scales if you can. It's a tall order sometimes. Just thinning out and looking for interference. I'm going to try not to wire any more branches, but I'm thinking I'm going to have to. Or maybe I'll just shove something between. Well, let's see what kind of growth I get. I'm just going to work away at this and do it in fast motion. All right, so I thought I said goodbye before, but I did a little more trimming. There's a little bit more to go. I'm seeing it as I look at this tree. And I expect to have my clippers in my hand and lop things off of this in the next few weeks. I'm going to leave it in the greenhouse because it should be in the greenhouse. I did a lot of work on this. It's lashed very tightly. But hopefully not in a way that mars it too badly. This is lashed to a rock. The wood lightened up better than I thought it would. It doesn't quite match this wood, but maybe if I get a gin or two over the years, that might work. So use your imagination. This is my entry into the Tanuki challenge. And I hope I pass the audition. All right, I'm handheld now, and it's the end of the video, and I just wanted to show you some additional wiring that I did. So right here, it's split. And it split very easily, but it didn't split all the way, and I was able to pull it back tight. If you can see that right there, you can probably still see the crack. Some bark peeled away on the lower part of that, which I don't know if you can see. You can't really see it. Well, maybe a little bit in there. Anyway, so I rewired it because it was how it was wired. That was the problem. So now I've got it wired out like that, and I needed to pull it down in this direction. So I've got it lashed here. This, you might not be able to see it with this background, but this is looking pretty good. I may end up losing this branch right here, but there's nothing there at the moment, and I'd love for this branch to grow up into this area. And I think with having cleared out so much foliage, the sun will be able to get right to it, and that'll be that. So I know I said this doesn't look like this is the dead part of this tree, but it doesn't look that bad. I'm very surprised. Can't wait to see what a year or two does in terms of the foliar growth and whether or not the roots have taken hold in this pot. So I'm keeping it nicely watered in the greenhouse for a little while, and as soon as the weather evens out outside, I'll be bringing it back out. All right. Thanks for keeping me company in my backyard.